Okay, let's talk about that. Follow me for a moment. I have to plug in my other camera, the studio cam. Say hi to everybody. Hi, everybody. Switching video to, there we go. Hi, everybody. Okay, so today we got a very bright studio, so it's going to be challenging to shoot the Moody shot. This is roughly the set that we're going to be shooting. We have a light going into the ceiling, which isn't doing much compared to the bright light source that is the window here, okay? There's the street, very bright. And then nothing over here. Oh, there's the camera. Okay, so I have hooked up the camera this morning already. Okay, there is a number of things. The first thing I'm going to talk about is focal length. I'm trying to turn the camera. So this guy, I'm going to be using my very, 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 well, long lens. It's the 80 to 400. It's a big, old, heavy lens, and it's stuck on this really tiny camera. The thing that is different between, say, this guy, which is kind of similar to the ones that you have, which is basically a 24 to 80, or you have a 24 to 105. That's a zoom lens that covers wide angle. One of the things that I do notice about work that people when they first start off in studio doing is that they tend to be like very far away or use wide lenses in order to approach the subject. The focal length of the lens really changes how things look. So if I'm looking at this wine bottle now, and I'm using roughly let's say a 50 mil lens, it looks like. If I switch to the telephoto lens, I get a different perspective and everything changes. If I, hold on, we're flipping, wow. With a long lens like this, even coming up from a high angle, there's not that much distortion, right? So, but if we switch to a wide lens, and I come into the same proportion, there's a lot more distortion, right? So if the bottle's the same size in the frame, there's a lot more distortion. So sort of similar to the shot that we did with the Apple HomePods, the choice of focal length really changes the way you look at a shot, okay? So it's really important that you sort of, first of all, choose the angle that you're going to photograph, and then choose the focal length of lens that you want to, whoa. Gimbal's not liking that. Let's go back up. There we go. Sorry about that. That you photograph with. It's one of those sort of creative choices. So making sure, well, they're all creative choices. It's one of those really significant creative choices that you sort of choose the focal length of lens that you want. That best represents sort of the feeling that you want to create in the image. You now have access, if you're lucky enough to be in the Toronto area, you now have access to the vast assortment of Sheridan lenses available to you. For today, what I'm going to go talk about, because I want to really talk about depth of field, I'm going to use this super duper wide or super duper long lens in order to create that. There's a couple things about this. I'm going to put it down. I'm going to put you guys down here for a second so we can see each other better. Okay. Unplugging the camera. I'm going to bring it over to you. So this is a specific note because I don't think that you guys have had this sort of discussion of lenses yet. So a lens like this is really quite heavy. Right? And on a tiny camera like this, it can add a lot of stress to this mount, okay? So when you'd put the tripod plate here on the bottom of the camera. So many cables coming out of this. With a lens like this, because this lens is very light, it doesn't put a lot of stress on it, whereas this one is very heavy and pulls very hard on this tiny little mount here. So long lenses like this, and I think we have one or two in the studio, that have at Sheridan that have this fancy mount on the side. It goes over, it's there already. Let's see if I can get it back on. There. And what it does is it allows you to put the tripod plate on it so that the weight of the lens, which is actually way heavier than this camera particularly, is supported by the tripod. Because if it's supported by this mount, you're pulling on that mount, you're putting stress on the camera body that it can't handle. So putting that little foot there is a really good idea. And it's great because when you put that on the camera, let me lining up, click there. You can, hopefully you can see this. Let me just confirm, yes you can. You can see here on that the tripod plate supports the weight of the camera. It's balanced, it doesn't fall over, it's great. The weight, which is mostly in the lens, is all supported here. Also, you don't have to flip the camera or flip the tripod to rotate the camera because you can release that and then whoop, there. And again, that keeps all the weight. You're not pulling sideways on the tripod mount, which would cause it to do that. You're putting pressure down on it easily, and it's nice and simple that way, right? Grip goes to the top. You can rotate, and there's little lines up here that you can line it up on. Lenses like this, like particularly because this is like what a sports lens, because it's designed to do outdoor, has vibration reduction on it, or VR. When you're in studio, it's on a tripod, turn that off. Actually, there's a gimbal inside here that has the part of the lens on a mount, and it actually, you know, it's constantly moving. It can soften your image. So turn it off so that it doesn't bother you. This lens is really good, although it does have a very distant minimum focusing distance. Okay, so I need the length of the studio to get it. So it is at, it says 2.3 meters. So that's like 7 to 8 feet. So that's how close you can get with it before it goes out of focus. So we'll see how that deals with this set. Okay, so hold on. There we go. Okay, so tripod. I'm going to use the monopod today because it's here. Clicks on there, make sure it's secure. I now have these 2 cables coming out of here. This guy is good for the tether cable, as you know. For those of you who haven't requested one, I would suggest that you do so. I think they've gotten new ones in now. There was a shortage a couple of weeks back. I hope they have come in now. If not, they will get you one as soon as they can. My solution is they're going to give you a USB 2, which has got a USB-A at one end, and a macro USB on the other end, which goes into your 60D. If you have another camera, well, you could take that one, and they will give you, they won't give you another one, but you could take that one that they give you and sell it on eBay. Or sell it to your fellow students who are still looking for one. So that's in. So yeah, I would get that. If suffice it, if you don't get it this year, they will make sure that you get it next September. Okay, so because that's their deal. Now I'm going to plug this guy in, because the reason I plug it in is because this guy, because it's a mirrorless camera, runs like 2 or 3 screens. It tends to eat up batteries. So there, that is ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to leave this here, and then I'm going to go over here to the computer, and we're going to plug in. Okay, so let us start off. One of the things that I've noticed is, let me find a desktop. Desktop, where are you? There we go. Is like, okay, Raph and I go on about file organizations. Most, I would say 90% are getting it pretty close. That's really good to see. After the second or third assignment, things are looking very good. So that's nice to see. What I want to do is just nail it home. The reason it's so important to be organized about this file structure. What I want you to do eventually is find some file structure that works best for you based on what we're telling you. We're trying to get everybody onto the level playing field. We're trying to mark everybody at the same time and get the same types of files back from you as we have asked for everybody. So file structure and organization is really important, because you generate a ton of work all the time. You're just been maybe shooting professionally or approaching it professionally. for less than a year, maybe a year at most, you're generating hundreds of images all the time. When you start to been working as long as I have, or even 5 years down the line, when you're graduating in 3 years, just after school, you're going to have a ton of stuff that you're going to be going through all the time. If you don't organize yourself into a structure and stick to it, you're going to be struggling, because it's really hard to find all this, particularly when you're you've changed computers maybe once or twice. Being organized, worried about where these files go is really, really, really important. And the next thing is that if you can organize yourself, you can organize the person that you're going to work for. Okay, and that's really important as your first job going out of school. When I was a kid, when I was young, back when the dinosaurs had just left the earth, and photography had just recently been invented. No, it's when I was about your age. My first job out of school was I was a bike courier. Yay! This guy, this stubby old man. I was like skinny as a rail, and I rode like 200 kilometers a day. It was great. I was a bike courier for a photo lab, and this allowed me to meet a ton of photographers at their highest level of work. It allowed me to meet them and to help them out with organizing their film and getting into the lab and getting it back on time. They were impressed by what I could do, because I was, thinking on my feet, and I was organized about how they got their work done and how they got it through the lab. They would come to the lab, and I would, or I'd bring the things in. They'd have literally a bag of film that they would give me, and then say, "Hey, process this." I said, "Wait, okay, let's stop and organize it." And we'd break that up into each shot, and we'd break it up into where the clip was, where we cut a piece of film and we run it through the machine to see that the processing was right, and then we'd clip it after, or run the rest of it afterwards. Taking that time to do that, to organize their work, really impressed a lot of those photographers, so that when it came to the point that I was, didn't want to be a courier anymore, they said, "Hey, why don't you come over and assist for me, because you were so good at organizing stuff for me in the lab. I'd love you to be on set and help me do that on set, so I don't have to worry about the lab doing it." This is really important, because what it means is that I've provided a service that they feel like they needed a gap in. And to tell you the truth, that still exists. Being an assistant and doing this organization, moving stuff around is important, but being organized and helping the photographer organize things is incredibly important, particularly in a digital world. So if I'm the photographer and I've been shooting all day and I'm done, that's it, we're closing the doors, I walk away and I leave my assistant to process and get all the files to the client. Which is very common to do, because I've been working since 7 in the morning and they've been working since 6 in the morning, but that's their job. I will walk away, and if they haven't set up the files, or if I've set up the files in a way that doesn't help, or they don't know where the files are, they can't get the stuff out to the client. I can't get the stuff out to the client if they haven't organized it for me. So knowing how to do that, and taking the skills that Raf and I are trying to beat you over the head with, is really, really helpful to your next step in a career towards working with photographers out there. If you can offer a service, say, "Hey, if you say to them, hey, the usual question, so what's your weakest skill? And you say, well, I'm not really organized. And that's not the answer. If what's your strongest skill? So I'm incredibly organized. I help people figure things out, because to tell you the truth, as a photographer, being organized is probably the last thing I think about. I'm still too worried about getting the light right on set, getting everything together, all that stuff, that I want to focus on being a photographer. If I have an assistant that's focusing on organizing my work, I feel so much more relaxed, and I can go in and I can create the work that I need to, and to make myself a better photographer every time. And if I have someone else to focus on that work, it's really good. I know how to do it, clearly, because I'm teaching you guys, hopefully. And you guys should know how to do it. By the end of this year, you'll know how to organize yourself, because you have 3 more years of working away at Sheridan, creating files, and then you're going to be out there. Getting into a good work ethic about how this stuff is structured and how it's delivered is really, really helpful. The point that Raf and I are kind of beating home now is that we're trying to create a baseline of organization. so that you, on the sort of the shot level, you know exactly where the files are and where they're going and how they output and how you create them. You will find your own file structure and how it works best for you further on. There are commonalities to everybody, but again, it's like there's no real correct way to do this. There's a way that works, and there's a way that works best for you, and you adapt the two. So what we want to do is, by being a little, pushy about the whole file structure thing, we want to set you guys on a great baseline so that you can decide what works best for you later on in your career. So until that point, you do what I say. Or Raf says. So let's start there. So we're going to go to the desktop, and we're going to start from the beginning. Okay, so. Okay, hopefully you see my desktop. So there's nothing on the desktop right now, so I'm going to start up Capture One because we're going to start with a session as opposed to a catalog. The reason session structures work is because they work, and the idea would be that one shot is one session. If you're doing two versions of a shot, it can stay inside that. But if it's one shot, one assignment, or one part of an assignment, you can put it in a session. Everything's all together. The complexities of it, that's from this morning. The complexities of it are simplified because Capture One has spent, this is their job, this is their work, their livelihood. They've spent a lot of time thinking about what file structure works well with commercial photography and how it works best in delivering stuff to a client. I don't deviate from their given folder structure because, one, I don't want to make it too complicated for myself, and two, it works. Having the capture folder where all the originals are, having a selects folder, an output folder, and a trash folder, that structure works well. That's all I need. Selects I don't use as much, but you could use it if you needed to. So we're going to set up a session as opposed to a catalog. Ooh, okay, so, and this is important. We start from this level here, start from the beginning and name it properly so that we don't have to worry about when it comes to the end. I've gone on about naming, so let's just not go into that. It has to be named the way it works for you, and or it works best for your client, depending on how much access to the original files your client has. If your client is just getting a final process TIFF, organize the naming structure that works for you. If the client, like I've done with catalog houses or other studios, they get the whole session, then organize it according to the way they want it, because it's going to go to their computers to get solved and organized. So you need to name it the way they want you to. So, and this is essentially, I'm the client here, and I'm telling you, you're shooting for me. I want the whole session, so name it the way I say. And the way I say is, so we've been basically doing, we have to erase that. We've basically been doing P section. So this is P1 underscore Waller today, right? I'm Waller, yeah. Underscore Andrew, that's me. And then underscore, this is going to be assignment A. Let's make it a capital A. I didn't do it right. See? So if I didn't do it right, I accidentally hit return. Let's go and fix that. No, I don't want to import anything. Let's go and fix that. How can I fix that? See? Nothing is ever normal. Okay, so the filing capture name, okay, I can change that here. I'm going to call this A4. So that's going to name everything A4, and then I'm going to put an underscore there so I can separate that last number. So over here you can see that that's what it's going to be named. So that's good. Okay, so that's fine. That's ready to go. But what I'm going to do now, because I made the mistake of hitting return, is I'm going to close this session, and then I'm going to go. I put it in pictures because that's right. That's important to remember that you don't put it on the desktop. So when you go to the studio next term in September, you can sign out a computer, which is great. So the way we have studio computers, that basically you get a space, you get your camera, you get your lights, you get all that stuff, you sign it out. And you can also get out a computer. So we have MacBook Pro 16-inch 2019 versions, all really good. Nice machines, great monitors, much better than the ones that were last year. So they're there to be used. The when you sign it out, there's two users on there. There's obviously the admin users, and then there's the student user. Don't save it to the desktop, okay? Because if you save it to the desktop, you're likely to lose the files. You can either save it to your external, which is attached to the thing, which probably wouldn't be a great idea because it's a MacBook Pro, so there's only two plugs. One of them's power, and then one of them's your camera. So your external is not going to work, so you save it onto the hard drive. There's a student hard drive, and then there's the working hard drive. The student hard drive is what you want to put it onto. You want to put it inside the student hard drive in pictures, named properly. Otherwise, if it's on the desktop, it can get erased. The machines, anybody can, the next person that takes them out, in case you've lost the file, can erase them, obviously. The machines get wiped about once a month or once every week. I don't know when, but they just wipe out stuff. Whereas if you put it on the hard drive, it's safe for a little bit. It's easily downloaded, and it's not going to interfere with the way the machine works. If it's on the desktop, you have some issues. I try and avoid that altogether. I want to put it inside the user drive. There hopefully will be a pictures folder there that you drop it into. So I'm going to go in there, and here we go. So that's P2. That was this morning. This is what the session was called, P1 Waller Andrew _ I didn't hit the A1. There's the capture folder. There's the output folder. There's this. I can now go in and I can rename it. Rename the folder. _A, or no, A, capital A4. So now my folder's named properly. The co-session, I could actually go in and rename the co-session if I wanted to, as long as I don't get rid of the dot thing. 4. And a note on naming. I can't use that. A note on naming. Okay, so Mac computers are really forgiving on how you organize your naming structure. So you can use commas, you can use spaces, you can use backslashes, you can put number signs in there, you can put dollar signs in there. That's fine. However, when you go to put things up onto a server, like as we have found out from Nadar or Media Shuttle, if we have names with certain characters in them, the server freaks out. So there's Mac-based servers, which are very rare. There's Linux-based servers, which are pretty much everywhere. There's Windows-based servers that the operating system is, they're out there too. There's Unix-based servers. There's all different kinds, and they're using the most used ones are using 3 different kinds of language. If you use punctuation marks like backslashes, dots, commas, and asterisks, those are forbidden on some servers because those are actually information for the server to manipulate that file with. Okay, so if you go, by accident, you go Andrew Waller .winebottle.jpg, the server is going to think that the file is called a .winebottle, not a JPEG, and it won't know how to open it. So the name can really screw you up. So be careful about how you name using backslashes, all those things. Don't use them. Basically, the reason we use an underscore is because some servers, like old Windows-based servers, can't handle even spaces in there. So you need to put an underscore in there in order to be able to read it. So that's why we ask for these really structured naming structures, so you can get the files up to the server and not run into issues. Because we're finding, Chris Botham's finding is that Media Shuttle has some issues with the way some folders are named, and they have weird extensions on them if they're not named properly, that they will reject them. So this is frustrating to us all. Okay, so that's ready to go. Now I can reopen that. Bada bing, bada boom. There it is. Check that it's going to be named properly for the next capture. It's going to be named. And now I can make sure everything's working. So I have now plugged in the camera. It's ready to go. But I'm going to go check that it's on because it's not appearing here. Sometimes you just got to troubleshoot it. Okay, I'm going to turn it on. That helps, right? Does it come on? Let's see. No, it doesn't come on. Why? Because capture one. No, so it's not coming on. It's plugged in. I checked the connection. It's here in the computer. What I'm going to do is unplug it. and then plug it back in. And then I bet it works. I assume it will work. Or maybe, oh, there it is. Ta-da! Okay, so sometimes it has a little issues talking to each other. Sometimes they're a little pouty. You know, they had a fight the night before, things like that. You got to remind them that they're in a relationship. They got to work it out. So that means turning the camera on or off to make sure that it's awake. Sometimes it means replugging it in here. Sometimes it means turning the camera off and taking the battery out and then resetting it. That usually only happens when there's something stuck in the buffer. So like there's 2 or 3 places where the stuff can get stuck. I kind of view it to doing plumbing. So the camera takes a picture with the sensor goes to a processor, that information goes to a buffer. That buffer is a small piece of memory that holds the pictures before it dumps it onto the media, like the card that you have in the camera, or out to the computer that we have plugged in here. That buffer holds up to anywhere between 10 to 30 images, depending on the size of the camera's buffer and how fast you're shooting. It holds them in that buffer and then drips them out the other side as quickly as it can. If you have a slow media, like you have a slow reading card, the buffer fills up very quickly if you're taking lots of pictures fast. If you're using a tether tool, a cable, it's not as fast as onboard media sometimes. You will run into a problem that maybe an image gets stuck in the buffer. If for some reason, as it's transferring something from the camera to the computer or camera to the media, that something stops, sometimes you get half a file stuck in the buffer and the camera doesn't know how to erase it or get past it. What you have to do in that situation is unplug it from the camera, unplug it from the computer, maybe take the card out. I always pull the battery out of the camera so that resets the camera, put it back in, turn the camera back on, put the media back in, plug the camera back into the computer. One thing that we did notice for tethering with the 6D in the studio last week is that it seemed to have issues tethering to the computers if it had a media card in the card slot. So for those of you at home doing it, and those of you in the studio, those of you all around the world, if you're having trouble tethering the camera seeing the computer, take the SD card out of the camera and then try it from there. And turn it off, then on again, and then plug it back in, run that cycle. It's literally the old, the IT guys. Is it plugged in? Is it turned on? You got to go through that a couple times sometimes. So it's just part of the troubleshooting process. If you get good at this, it's way simpler to get it done firsthand, make sure everything's working, than having to do that with a client on set. Nothing frustrates me more is when the camera isn't talking to the computer and I'm trying to take a picture and the client's right there. Okay, so now we're tethered up. We're hooked up. I have no idea what's going through the camera. We don't have anything on set. Let's go to set. Hold on. Switchy switch to that guy. Okay, back to the set camera. Where am I? I'm there. I am. Okay. Hi. Okay, so what are we going to photograph? We don't need the lens. I'm going to put the lens somewhere safe. Lens hood. Very important. Always have a lens hood. We have a bottle of wine you like. It's very good vintage. No, maybe. What is it? It is. I don't even know where it's from. It's a red wine. Product of Chile. It's a Chilean wine. Thus the mountains, I guess. I have 2 wine glasses. If I was really good, I would get my Windex out, put it somewhere around. I can clean the bottle. Helps. The stuff is really important. So cleaning it helps. Everything, all this stuff helps. Let's see if this makes it worse or makes it better. Oh, the smell of hand sanitizer and Windex. So cleaning this stuff helps a lot because you have to do less retouching in the end. And I'm all about doing less work rather than more. Why would I make more work for myself? That is just self-defeating in so many ways. Okay, so cleaning things, really good idea. Less retouching. Okay, so that's, put that aside, out of the way. Whew, stinky. Roughly line it up, look at it. How much, we got a lot of light coming in from this window, so we'll see how to deal with that. I have red wine here. Really, it's just Fruitopia. It's just fruit juice. It's actually lighter than wine. It's gonna look. Normally, I would use water with food coloring, but I can't find my food coloring right now, so I'm going to use fruit juice because I don't want to waste good wine on this. Jesus. All right, so now I'm going to look through the camera. Oh, I don't see anything. I don't know. There we go. Okay, so this is basically going to be a bottle shot and talking about background and controlling background and light and limited depth of field at the same time and making it interesting as possible. So let's look at what we see through the camera. So desktop again. Okay, so, whoa, there we go. Out of focus, really, and backlit. Okay, so let's look at our shutter speed. Okay, now we're in manual. We can have our control over shutter speed. ISO is at 100. I want to keep the ISO as low as possible all the time because I want to preserve the quality in the shot as long as possible. Yes, cameras are very good at ramping up ISO very quickly. However, they have a lot of issues in when you start to enlarge that file, you're just going to compound problems on top of problems. So why not start exactly where you want to go to start with? Oh, there's a dot. What's that dot? I'm looking on the back of the screen. It's not on the background. It's on the camera. We'll figure that out in a second. So there, you can see some issues. It's obviously badly exposed right now. It's kind of crooked. I'm going to go through here and adjust it. And it's because, oh, it's because the back edge has gone up on this. So that line in the background is this line here. See, again, like everything, nothing is normal. So why we have clamps and tape. The first horizon line issue. See there, that straightened it a little bit. I'm going to go to my camera's level, but oddly enough, the bottle isn't because the table is kind of leaning, which works. I should probably remember that. It doesn't work well when you're shooting liquids, right? Okay, I'm going to pull my tripod back. Oh, one of the wheels is broken. I have to replace them and they're $100 each. I'm not happy about that. Okay, so there. Now, this minimum focusing distance of being 2 meters or so, I'm now about 3 meters from them. I can now focus in on the background, or at least on the shot. And then let's see that. Very red. Okay, horizon lines, camera shots, and that dot. Yeah, that dot's on the frame, you can see it. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna turn the camera off and hope it cleans itself. Otherwise, that's a big piece of dust that got into the camera while I was putting the lens on there. There, it's gone. Okay, so I might have to reattach. No camera attack. No. So I turn it on and off again. I'm going to have to disconnect the USB cable and then plug it back in to remind it to look for the camera. That should be good now. There we go. Sometimes it just needs to be told. Okay, so I want to keep a very short depth of field. So I'm going to shoot this wide open at 1/100th of a second. My light meter is telling me that it should be normal. Let's see what we got. Well, the light meter says it's normal, but I'm exposing the background normal. So this is where judging what the exposure is ridiculously important. Okay, so how do we judge the exposure? The histogram, all the information's there, that's fine. Our right side is kind of slammed up against the right side there a little bit, or the left side, sorry, the dark edge. We can't obviously see the bottle, right? If I was shooting from the back of the camera, you would see this probably pretty bright on the camera. You can adjust those cameras up, the brightness up, and it's kind of an issue with that. So what I'm going to do is the way you figure out exposure. There's a couple things. Is that the way mine is place the highlight, the brightest thing in the shot, exactly where you need it to be. So if you need a highlight that's around 245, 255, you place it there with exposure, and then you pull in the shadows with lighting or effects controls in Capture One. So let's see. So this background here, I don't want to have any detail in it. So let's bring it up. It is 152. It's quite far down. So let's open up. I'm not going to push the ISO. I don't mind pushing the shutter speed because I have it on a tripod. So I'm going from 100th of a second to a 50th of a second. That's one stop. Now I'm looking, what's really important to me is the midtones. So the wine label is what I want to shoot for, okay? I want to get this as perfectly exposed as possible. So there's our getting there. Brighter, one stop, still, let's go another stop. So from 50th to 25th of a second, a little longer. So histogram's now beginning to push. We're at 242 on the highlight side. I'm gonna go even further because again, like I'm placed the highlight into a safe area, right? But I want to see what's important in here. So what I'll do is I'll hunt the exposure. I'll pushing it till the highlight is normal, and then push it even further to get what I need in terms of midtones, and then I will adapt it to where it needs to go from there. I want to see the other side of the extreme. So let's leave the aperture where it is. Let's move the shutter speed from 1/25th to 1/25th of a second to 1/13th of a second. Okay, so there. That's getting there. Now midtones are now closer to where I want them to be in here. The background is 255. That's okay. We're gonna work that. If I take it further, if I go from a 13th to say, let's go to a 6th. That's another full stop. There. Okay. So now, if you look what's happening to the histogram here, we're getting a little bit of gap in here. We don't have any blacks anymore, and we're losing stuff. Everything's blown out. If you look at the warning, wow, that's a lot of warning. Maybe I'm overexposed it a little bit. Yeah, okay, so I've overexposed it a little bit. There's two choices I can do. I can bring down the exposure a little bit, or I can go, three choices. I can go in there and edit the highlights, the whites. I can bring that down a little bit. Yeah, but I'm still, that doesn't affect the flare that I have to get rid of in there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to bring down the exposure, and then I'm gonna light more into the front. I'm gonna fill in those shadows. So I'm gonna go back to this exposure where it's a little dark, or maybe even this exposure where it's just a little dark, and then I'm gonna fill it in so that my midtones are where I need to be, and I can cover this whole histogram. So let's bring down that exposure down, say not down to 13th, but a 10th of a second. There, okay, so that's still, 254, okay. So now that's within tunable range. I can still tune that a bit. My exposure meter is telling me I'm a stop and a half above normal, which is fine, because I'm really slamming it just barely into that corner. I can now get in there and I can bring down the white and bring down the highlight, and I can get in there and sort of tune up the black a little bit to get a little more black, and then maybe a bit of clarity. And there, I haven't touched the exposure at all because I brought it up with exposure. Man, that wine looks like fruit juice. There are a couple huge issues here. The focus points on the back glass, the bottle's out of focus. I have these horizon lines running across the shot. Too many horizon lines crossing here. There. And too many. So horizontal lines are really easy for the eye to pick up. We want to avoid that, so the complexities of that. So if we look at the set, and if we're decided that this is the angle that we want to go on, so fly with me. Let's look at it from here. This, by the way, this guy's not doing anything on set yet. So let's look at that and zoom in. Okay, so there's our set. So what do we have? We have our gray tile, a gray background, and then we have the edge of the table, and then we have the white seamless in the background. Okay, so what I want to get rid of is these two, this line. Yeah, stop wandering around, man. Yeah, okay, so we want to get rid of the line that's there and the edge of the table, okay? So the way we can do that, if we look from camera, why don't we push the tile back? Let's see what that does. So, hold on. Okay, so there's our big set, and if we just push the tile back, I'm gonna put you down so I can have two hands, sorry. Whee. There, okay. Whoa, pushing it back. So now we only have to eliminate one horizon line because we're back further on the set. We're gonna crop off the front. And now if we go back here and look on the camera, zoom in, we can now start to focus. Out of focus. Why are you not? There, okay. There, in focus. It's because it's not focusing here. Plop. Okay, so there. So that's in focus. We're going to crop off the top a little bit, so I'm going to angle up a bit. And now we're looking at the shot. So here's another thing. So if you, on your cameras, you can zoom in. Like on my camera, I've got this little plus symbol here, and then there's the display. So I can zoom in, beep, beep, and I can now, I'm going to move that. I have to stand to the side because if I put my hand over that, it automatically goes to the viewfinder in there. So I'm going to move the focus point there. So I'm at like 200% now. And you can see that it's focused on the back of the glass, but if I move it forward, I can do that. So this is like macro photography focusing there. And then I can back out with there. So that's a way of getting in and confirming your focus as well as being here. Come on, focus on that, there you go. You can see it in here. So let's look at the shot. Got to be in the software, Andrew. Click. There, okay, so now we're sharp. We have one horizon line to deal with, and that's wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to put you back on set so you can see things. So you can see the whole set. Let's go to the file here. La, 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 la. There. Okay, so hide this so I can see the bottom. So we're wide open. Let's see how little depth of field we have. Okay, so wide open. Let's zoom in. So we are focused on the front rim of that glass, and it doesn't go past that. If we focus on this, it's different. Let's see how the difference is, and if I just throw on to the set and we go to live view. Okay, so there's live view. I still think it's kind of dark exposure, so we'll deal with that later. But I'm going to put old school thing here. And we can see, let me just put a wedge on the bottom of that so it lays flat. Okay. So when this lens is wide open, now the reason I chose this lens is I want really, really shallow depth of field. And the reason I chose it is, I'm going to swing the camera over briefly. There. Look at wide open. Look at the numbers on the tape measure. So I can start at 10 inches from there, and then as I move down, that's the critical focus points that I'm seeing, okay? So it's moving in and out very little. So at that distance that I'm at with this lens, if I focus near the bottle, we're getting from basically from 22 inches to 24 inches in focus. We're getting like 2 inches of this shot in focus, which is so little depth of field. The longer lens gives me the shortest depth of field. The wider lenses, like 28s, if you use them, they tend to give you more depth of field, more stuff in focus at smaller apertures, or sorry, wider apertures. So that's not what I want. I want to frame that better. Laying it up. Okay, so now there's a little, I'm not in love with this composition, so I'm going to go in there and it's too balanced. I want to get it, yeah, that's too much in the middle. Now it's like the just 1, 2, 3 things across the set. Don't like that. See, I just did this same shot this morning. Now it's different, right? So let's see where that goes. Okay, so now we know that the exposure is dark for the foreground because I'm looking at that, but the exposure is pretty decent for the for everything else. I don't have a lot of shape, but look at this. This is what's crazy. Okay, so here we're now very sharp on the object. Our labels are sharp. The glasses aren't sharp. The back edge of the bottle is just starting to fall off. Grab that. Look, there's the whole studio. Everything in there. So I could probably, there's the studio stand, there's the ladder, there's the Predator on the side, there's the light that's behind it. So foreground stuff that's behind. There's the door. There's the dot. What's that dot? That dot is actually this, the inside of the bottle. And there's the line on the ceiling, the line of lights. There's the card against the wall. You can see everything, right? So a lot of issues here. And this kind of complicated thing on the edge here. So let's do this. Let's try bringing some light into the foreground to brighten up that label a little bit. So here, I'm bringing in this light. And I'm bringing it in really close. You would think that a big softbox like this is really, and I'm not lighting from the front, because right now I'm lighting from the back. I don't want to light from the front, because I don't want to flatten this. I want to keep some of the shape and the drama in the shot still. And I want to get this in as close to the set as I can. Okay. Let's see where that goes. There. Wow. Big difference, right? Okay. Now this is just visually doing it. I don't really have much, and I can now start to see the label a little more. It feels a little cold. The final crop will be somewhere in here, cropping out the background that I don't want. So somewhere in there. I want to keep the background fairly light. I'm going to straighten the camera to the bottle a little more. And now I'm going to actually start to guarantee that I'm getting the right color and the right exposure. So let's just stop sharing the screen for a second. Okay, so this guy, remember these? I told you to do these. Now this gives you a solid base. I'm going to turn it so you can see me. There we go. This gives you a solid base in terms of two things. One color. We know that it's perfect for the color because we got this gray wedges here that gives us from white to black. We know what this is supposed to represent. It's supposed to represent somewhere around 240, 220, somewhere in there in terms of whiteness. We know this is supposed to be around 10 in terms of black. We have color swatches in here to give us the sense of how the color is rendered. We have the same white to black step wedges here and color step wedges there. These ones in the middle from landscape with snowflake to landscape with sunshine, or person with small sun to person with big sun. These are like tuning things for making it like a slightly warmer shot, like to make it look like there's more sunshine, to make it look like there's less sunshine. Yeah, I don't use them so much, but they kind of need to use. But this one's the important one because it gives us a sense of what the color is, and that's the most important, the first important thing. And second is exposure, because we know where these are supposed to be, what they're supposed to look like. So if we have it facing towards the camera, like so, in our shot, there, you see? Okay, so we have this is getting hit by this light and that light coming in from the other side. So this is the primary light that's lighting the front, so that's important. So let's set this color balance exactly where it needs to go. So we take a picture of that. Taking a picture of that, click. And then you can see it here. There. Okay, so now we have our step wedges. We can grab the eyedropper here, and then I can neutralize it here. Okay. Now I also can tell the exposure. So 213, if I said that white needed to be around 220, wow, it's right around 220. If the black needs to be somewhere around 10, it's a little brighter than 10. It's 40. So that's black with a lot of detail. It could be a little darker, perhaps. Let's see. So if we go back and say, okay, let's change that exposure to something where it started at, which was, I think, at 100th of a second. Clearly too dark. And then we watch it just, we're hunting it forward, opening it up until we start to see it blow out. Getting there. Okay, so now we're at F13. We're at 40 on that, and we're at 200 on that. So that's pretty close. I think it's kind of, we're getting a little bit of flare coming into the bottom end, which is a little not where I need to go. It might be that this lens is dirty, and that's where all that dust is coming from. We could add some clarity. We could add some dehaze, which might help. Or we could just try and reduce the amount of flare that's coming forward. So let's assume that we're good in terms of exposure. And it's this, because if we take it any further, we take it up to a quarter second, we're just going to blow things out completely. Yeah, so that's way too hot, right? Even though we're we're 235, we're still within printable range of that. And we're definitely within, but we're losing so much color because there's so much light coming from the back, and it's washing out our label. So we're looking at what's important. So we're going to control the amount of light from the background separately. It doesn't help that the sun's going up and down. So we're going to go back to around 1/15 of a second and keep it a little darker from where we need to go. There. I'm gonna open up to 1/10, and then we're gonna control the background. Okay. So we can now take that out. We have a solid color balance, and we have a solid sense of where the exposure is going. And that's why you have one of these things, mostly for color balance, and secondly for exposure. Okay, so that's, I'm going to level that out, assuming that the back of the edge of the table is level. I think something, this is, I should have, let's visually do the center line of that bottle. Okay, so what I am is I'm not square to the table. And the table's crooked, so that doesn't help. Let's try that. It's those little things that become frustrating, so you sort of have to set it up. And this is why it takes time. You have to watch each one of these little things that has to come up. So now it's level. We're looking down because the angle of the camera is looking down, as you can see from the camera. I'm going to correct the perspective of the keystone as well. Just by, on the vertical, I can make it, whoa. And I want to make it a little more straight. Well, that's making it look really narrow, so I'm going to change the aspect ratio a little bit to getting back to where the bottle looks better. So, and that's basically, I want the bottle to look straight up and down, and go from there. So, and looking around, okay, so there's a little bit of flare up there. There's a nice cut here. The label looks really good. We're wide open, which is quite good, considering we're at 5.3. We have a lot in focus. I think we're further away. The one in this morning I had at 5.3, and it had literally, because I was at minimum focusing distance, it was literally had, like I could get the T in, I could get on this, I could get the V in sharp, but I couldn't get the L in sharp. So if we're going 100%, it's actually pretty good. So the front of it's just starting to fall soft back here, and definitely falling soft. So this is using depth of field to get exactly what I need in focus and nothing more, because if I had everything in focus, I would not want to see that. So let's look at that. Let's see what it looks like with everything in focus. Why would we want to do that? Because we want to. So let's take this right to the bottom of the lens, all the way to f40. So let's count that through. So it's 5.6 to 5.3 to say f8 is just over one stop. 2 stops to 11. 3 stops to 16. 4 stops to 22. 5 stops to f32. And 6 stops to f40. So we have to go 6 stops more exposure. So 1/5 of a second, 1 stop. 2.5 of a second, 3 stops, or 2 stops. And then this is going to 1.3, which is 3 stops. I'm just going to switch to 1. It's easier for my math. 4 stops is 2 seconds. 5 stops is 4 seconds. 6 stops is 8 seconds. And now 7 stops is 15 seconds. Okay, let's see what 15-second exposure looks like on this. It may take a while. It's amazing how long 15 seconds is. No one can move in this shot because the whole, if the studio, there it goes. If the stand bounces, you'll get things out of focus. Whoa, 15 seconds. Big change in the light. Okay, so let's reduce that down to, let's take it down a stop. 8 seconds. Okay, closer. I'm going to delete this one out of there. Okay, And now let's take it down to 4 seconds. Let us compare. Okay, so there, 4 seconds on the left, and this, or sorry, f5.3 on the left and f40 on the right. You can start to see that on the f40 one, which is really, really in focus. What have we lost here? Okay, so we got the back of the wine glass is in focus. No, don't rotate. No, what's going on? Oh, I'm on rotate, so there. Okay, zoom. No, I'm in the wrong 100%. Click on this guy, now zoom. There you go, Waller. Okay, so it's fun, the same area. Okay, so the back of the glass on the 5.3 is not in focus. The back of the bottle is barely in focus. We have the glass and we have the bottle in focus. And look what's happening. You can see, I don't know if you probably can't, maybe you can see. You can see texture in the paper in the back wall now at f40. I don't want to see that. I want to keep that depth of field short. But also the striking thing is look at f5.3. Look at the type between f5.3, which is really, really ridiculously short depth of field, all of 1.5 inches or 2 inches of depth of field, and to the f40, which has depth of field from the front of the shot, which you'll see. This is in focus. On this one, it's not. To the back wall, but look at the type. Okay, so the lens has fallen apart as it goes all the way down at this focal length. Okay, so the A is soft, all of this is soft. I haven't changed the focal point on this camera. It has just changed the depth of field. The lens is sharper, wider, open. Okay, and it is also on the f40, we've brought in detail on the background and also detail on the sensor. So that's a piece of dust that's on the sensor. That's a piece of dust that's on the sensor. That's a piece of dust that's on the sensor. You don't see them here. They're still there, but you don't see them. Somewhere in there. But because it's out of focus. And we've kind of softened things up, which is nice. So the background's soft, but the foreground's sharp. And this is about selective focus. Okay, as simple as that. I mean, you can't get much simpler than that. So, come on. Why are you doing that to me? There. Okay, so now they're in focus. You can see the texture in the background. I don't want that. So I'm going to take it back to 5.3, which is wide open. And where were we? At 1/10 of a second. 1/10 of a second. Ta-da! The color balance has shifted a little bit because I think there's more sunlight coming in, and there's even more sunlight. Look at this now. So this is the problem with dealing with continuous tone. So there's so much more sunlight, it's so much warmer, and now it's cooler again. Yeah, so it's changing up and down. So depth of field isn't always what you want. Now let's look carefully at the next sort of property of shooting in studio, which is that law of physics, which is angle of reflection and angle of incidence or reflection. So let's go into 100%, or this is 400%. We see here. Okay, so if we look there, grab you guys over here. Let's just switch to the handheld camera for a second. Okay, here we are in studio. Look at my desk, holy moly. Okay, so here you can see, just gonna grab the writing tool, there we go. You can see here, that is the window. So that doorway there is reflected on the glass here, and it's there too. This here is the light that's on the ceiling there. All these things are reflected in here. This is the edge of the softbox, these black lines. That's the edge of the softbox. So if we go over here, we go from here. So this line here is this line here on the bottle. The edge line is that door that's back there. The line that's on the ceiling, or this one here, that one that's there, is this up here. So there's a lot of things. So this, if you think about it, this is the angle of incidence thing. So from here, or we go from here, up. This is roughly the angle of the camera's on. This is reflecting that back there. This is that back there. This, or this over here, is that way up there on the ceiling. So this is what it is. So when I want to find out what's creating those reflections, I go over here. So this, looking back into the set, is where I'm standing is exactly where that reflection is, okay? So I want to soften this edge here, that edge on the bottle. The way you can do this to get rid of this black line is that we're also seeing the texture of this softbox in here. You can see there's lines in that on this final shot. What I'm going to do is try and get rid of it by making those lines disappear. So I need some clamps, which are over here. 2 clamps. And I'm going to put it, I would normally use either a piece of Mylar. I don't have one big enough today, or I'm going to use this today. I'm going to use this extra piece of this reflector or diffusion. It's got texture too, but less than the other one. So there, that texture's not great there. And it's softened that highlight up, which we'll see in a second. So hold on. Let's go over here, turn those off, and then go into sharing the screen. Okay, so there, if we watch this, take a picture, please. So this line is going to disappear. Poof, gone. So I've softened that. You can see here, you can see the edge of the reflector, but you can see that it's much different from the first one. We've softened it up. And we've eliminated that. We have all these things, which we might need to do the same with over there, which might mean bringing in a card onto the side here. So I'm gonna move you guys. I'm gonna put you guys. Where am I gonna put you guys? We're gonna go over here for a second. I need a tripod. I need another tripod. I need a stand. More stands. Dot, dot, dot. More stands. And again, I'm going to need a clamp, because last thing you want is one of these coming down on you while you're shooting halfway through a shot. Okay, so that has eliminated some of it. No, I don't want Sheridan, I want this. There, so there's the shape of that card. Okay, and that card's pretty close. It's still not blocking out enough, and we're still starting to see stuff in there that we don't want to see. So it's a matter of exploring that. And again, like you feel like, particularly with round things, you have to get them in really close. And they have to be much larger than you think they need to be. There. Okay, so there, so we're getting there. We still have, that's the window back there. And over here, this is the door back there, coming down. Let's look at it overall. So we're creating this kind of odd shape in here, which I don't like. So, and that's probably because the softbox is, if you look in the tiny picture of the studio in the corner, the softbox is leaning. See, everything's kind of leaning over, and that's why. So let's not do that. Let's look from camera. Can you see past the studio stand? There you can. Trying to find, there we go. You can see from the camera there. So you can see the softbox is leaning, which is not great. Not what we want to do. So let's straighten that up. What did I hit? It's normally what I do. Yeah, I hit the glass. Okay. There we go. That's straighter. And this can go straighter too. Okay, and so it's about following these angles through. There, so that's better. So I'm getting there. So if I had, whoa, come back. If I had a lot of time, I would fix this in post because that's a bit of a blemish in the card, or sorry, in the bottle. This is the shape of the bottle here, and combined with the fact that I'm using a circle, not a square. I want to get rid of these lines here. So that might mean a little bit of tuning in the background. So if we look at the studio cam from camera angle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover right back here with a card. So we're going to get rid of some of that light that is coming in from the back corner here. And literally, because of the shape of this, I have to look here and then go all the way around to the back to get that where it is. And I will have gotten one side, this side. If you come here, we're flying over here. Okay, so here we are in the studio. Wait, where'd it go? There's Carl. Capture one. Did you just crash on me? No, you hid yourself. Where'd you hid yourself? There we go. Why? Okay, there. Okay, so take a picture. So look at that edge. Pop. You can see I've eliminated that highlight. And I've created, there's like a flare in here, right? So it's looking like it's a little bright, but partly the sunshine's getting much and much brighter and brighter. So that is the set. Go there. Okay, so there's our set. So we have these really close things, and it doesn't hurt to get big, and it doesn't hurt to get close. That card back there against the window has eliminated that tiny sliver of a reflection that was there. You can still see one on the left side of the bottle because that's the left side of the room there. And I can't get this card back any further because of the way I rigged it. I'm going to have to put it on an arm to get further back. But at this point, given that we are where we are, and we have the amount of time that we have, that's actually not half bad for what it needs to be. Here. So let me just go to our compare. Why can't I select it? I hate this mouse right now. There we go. I want to zoom in. Okay, so hand tool. So there, you can see the difference between the two. Okay, so that's just a change in the quality of light. This one over here has all this black shape. That is the softbox. This too. This is the light. There's the picture. Here, we now have a card. We have this shape we have to get rid of, which is the back edge of that card. We have this shape which we have to get rid of, which is, in fact, the label. You're actually seeing inside the bottle here because it's reflecting itself. So that one's almost impossible to get rid of. We have gotten rid of this line here. That's gone. That's not here. This is still there. We know that. And we're getting a little bit of transition in terms of just it's flaring out a bit, and it's actually getting a little, edge line. We can bring it in a little sharper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to the to the f-stop, and I'm going to go from 5/6. I'm going to go to a full stop f8. So that means me going down to 1/5 of a second and seeing where it goes. I'm watching that edge. So that edge, from that to that, it's gotten a little better. Okay, we're also got a little bit of color. So we would then, I'm going to go now into this guy, and I'm going to increase the clarity a little bit. And I'm going to go bring down my highlight. You can see the color shift, huge. And that's that between one side and the other. That is because the color has changed in the room. So now I'm going to go back because I'm always constantly checking back in. I'm checking back. Where did I put the color card? I'm going to look over here. No, it's not over here. Oh, it's right in front of me. Right here. Here we go. I'm going to put the color card into the shot. Here we are. Whoop. So the color card's going to go in here so I can get a second reference. Because the light's changed a lot, so we're shooting through this diffusion over here, and we're shooting off a warm card. The card's changed color. I'm going to put this back into the shot, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to take a picture. Except I'm going to set this, wait, go back. Set this one as our compare. And then I'm going to go take a new shot. Okay, so the one on the right is the last shot we took. And I'm going to go down. There's our color card. The same area, so we can see comparatively. I'm going to grab the eyedropper tool there, and then I'm going to neutralize it. Poof. And that's because, one, the light is changed in the room. Two, the diffusion materials that I'm using, that diffuser is really warm. It's not neutral, it's old. So now I'm going to take that color card out. Hold on. And I'm going to take another picture. And we've cooled it off significantly. Okay, we've gotten back to neutral now. Okay. And we've also kept that edge kind of nice. We lost that color banding in there. That was flare coming in. There's a little bit of flare in there, but it's being held in. It's not half bad. This I can retouch later. In fact, I could try and retouch it now. See if it gets it. Almost. Yeah, not bad. I would want to go in and draw this line in post-production to get that better, because you can see that's the stand that's in there. This is the edge of that. There's lots of stuff that you need to fix, and might be nice to warp that forward so it's nice and straight. Building the set, it's pretty good. We're nice and level, and let's look at the thing in the distance. So there's all that hot sunshine here is coming in, right? So, and our wine does not look like wine. Short depth of field, we're getting a little bit of flare. Okay, that's fine. I could say that this is good, so I'm going to give this a check mark. I mean, there's things like I should clean up this glass because those are my fingerprints. I want to bring that in. I can probably control that with some highlight controls. No, it's bringing everything down. That's an option right now. So a bright option. The next what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab another stand. And again, like the circumstances are changing all the time, so I have to basically rebuild this shot every time I do it, and it's not the same every time. So I'm going to put a stand back here, and on it I'm going to, it's really hard to do this with one hand. I'm going to see if I have a clean white. Actually, no, I'm going to go black. The client has said, let's go dark. So we're going to put this here. There, you can see the set, and I'm going to put a black card back there. I have to find the right clamp. There we go, that one, and this one. Do I want this one? Yes, I want to take that off. Clamps, so many different kinds. Okay, so. Hi guys. I'm going to put this guy on here. Take that off. Super clamps, the best, most useful device in the world. One of the many. All these things are at the cage or the photo security at Sheridan, so you will have access to all of them, which is great because it's a wonderful thing about being in school. It's not just the pizza parties. Now, okay. There. Okay, so now gone all moody. Let's see what that looks like. This is fun. This is where I find it fun. It's like we're basically, tuning this shot to wherever we want it to go. Oh, yes. Look at that. Oh my God. Holy moly. See, that's what happens. I did it. And now we can go into fine tuning it. So that's beautiful. So what that is, let's look at that set. So we have a big softbox with a circular diffusion in front of it for one light coming across, and we have the card light there, really close in. This light's not doing so much anymore because it's mostly the sunshine that's in here. In the back, we have the Ontario Fish Guy. No, we have the black card just off the set. I don't have to worry about this horizon line because the focus stops at the back of the bottle and everything else is going soft. All this stuff back here is out of focus. I don't have to worry about it. I can even change the nature of that background by turning that. We're now hopefully going to have a gradient on that. And I really like this here, this edge here that's coming in there, and this here, which is the softbox, and this is that window light that's coming in, and it's getting this nice hard light down there. Sometimes you just discover things that are cool. There, okay, so we've not quite got a gradient on that yet. Let's see if we can get that to pick up some light. It might mean doing it the other way, so it catches that light. There's lots of walking around. You can get your steps in a studio very quickly. So if you're worrying about your steps, photography is the job for you. Very few times that I'm actually sitting down. Oh, see, that's the edge. So that's different, right? The bottle's different. I like the bottle the other way better. So again, like that back edge of the bottle is not actually the side of the bottle on set. It's actually the back of the bottle. So here, let's try this. So that it's really oblique, and I can even, hold on. Hold on, I'm going to lower this light here. There. So I've lowered, whoa. So I've lowered that guy, and he's now bouncing into this guy. Let's see where that goes. Lots of walking around. See, different now. Different. So we have these variations now, okay? So now that's a little too blue and a little too cold. That light's really cold, so we can angle that up a bit, feather it out. Whoa. Oh, who didn't tighten that? Me, I didn't tighten that. Okay, so let's angle that down and in. So I'm getting that sort of, and I'm using the barn doors here, which is something you don't get to do often. I'm just looking at where it goes from there. So that you can do on Studio now with the tungsten lights. So let's go back here. A little different. So I'm trying to create a gradient. We're picking up a lot of texture. So let's try pulling that back. And I'm going to try and, I'm going to finesse this. Hold on, you stay here and watch me finesse this light. Okay, so if I want to change this light into a vertical, can I do that? No, yes I can. Oh no, that doesn't rotate. I want to get this light into a vertical light and just make it into a strip light. Yeah, that'll do it. I'll do it like this. See, none of this is normal. There's no normal, it's just figuring it out. Look at that, there we go. Making sure everything connects and doesn't break. Stuff falling down is not good. Tightening everything up, holding it until I know that it's tight. I'm going to take this, put it on the floor. And I'm going to bring this in closer. And I'm going to angle it down and in. So that, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to, again, create that sort of gradient in there. It's hard to do with a light like this. It isn't focusable, but I'm going to do it with the barn doors. So I'm trying to put the pool of light down here and have it go from messy dark to light here. And I've pulled it back a bit as you saw, because that's what I wanted to do. And I wanted to get it out of focus because you can see here on this, it's picking up texture. Like that's texture. That's all that sort of modelly feel is texture. So I don't want to do that. Oh, the dog's streaming. So there, and now we're just getting a crack of the line. It's out of focus a little bit. Things I could do to make this better would be to get a bigger card. I could pull it further away, but I'm really low on black cards. And the other thing would be to clean this black card, because look how dirty it is. It's really dusty. Cat paws. Yeah, you can see my handprint. So there, let's try that. And I'm going to pull this back a bit, and then I'm going to dim it down. There's a dimmer on this guy. Okay, let's try that. Lots of walking back and forth. This is where I need an assistant to yell at. Go fix that, do this. And you could, like, if you had an assistant or if you had a friend, this is a great thing about working in the studio with each other is that you can, there we go. Oh, yeah, baby. So there's issues. This card needs to be cleaned. There's dust and stuff in it. And I probably should, like, there's a scuff mark there, things like that. But that is wicked good, eh? I like that a lot. So there, it's basically, problem solving 101. As I was saying, so like, it's really hard to do this, as you saw me walking back and forth, running around. When I have an assistant, I can do that. When you guys are in the studio together, I encourage it, particularly in second year, to help each other, so that you assist each other, so that you're learning from what your friend is doing, and you're also learning by doing it as an assistant. You're learning as doing it as a photographer. You see it both two ways, and you can create beautiful work together. And it's really a great partnership when you get to be with someone like a good assistant, or just working together, that you kind of bounce ideas off each other, and you can see things that you don't see normally. Because I'm going to balance it again. You can see how much warmer or cooler that light on the background is. So the foreground's pretty good, but the background light has gone really cold. But that's okay. So I'm loving the shot. It's really good. It's kind of nice. It's pretty. It works well. I've worked it from, remember we started here? We started here. And now we're all the way to here. Bang. There's some things I would change, like the color in the background and things like that. So we could actually, what I would do to get all fancy is I would create an adjustment layer. New adjustment layer. Is it filled? Oh, I'm going to delete that layer and make a filled adjustment layer. New filled adjustment layer. Put up, bing. And then I'm going to take a color balance from that into that adjustment layer there. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to erase everything. That layer is auto mask. Use pen pressure. No, need that. It's thinking about the mask. I'll have to fix that. So I'm making this really brutally not good. Okay, so you can see now I have ability to control the color balance roughly in that area. I can put it against pretty much anything at this point. I can even change the exposure to make it a little darker. I can take all sorts of things in there. So that allows me some tunability in that adjustment layer. I can also make it thinner so that it doesn't look. And I can refine or feather the edge, right click, and then I'm gonna go feather the edge and make it a little, it's gonna fix these little bits in here. It's gonna apply that, come on. Mask, so there's little bits in here that I can take out. I'm gonna take auto mask off. I'm gonna take these out. And I'm gonna put it back in, brush, auto mask. I'm going to reduce it in size. I find it's more accurate if it's reduced in size and it's taking on a smaller area. Often I'll just dab it through here. There. So, and then plus that. There. Okay, and then erase that little bit in there. No, I want to erase it, you silly thing. hitting the E key turns it into a eraser, and I love that. It's nice and fast. So there, gorgeous. Oh my God. I could bring down the whites in that area. Nothing in there. Shadows. All right, so we can fool around a lot. So that's kind of fun to play with. Things that you would fix would be like clean glasses, clean background, things like that. Everything is nice and sharp. Way to go. So then now I would mark this one with a plus, and then I would sort them. So close. I go up to here and I go sort by color tag, and all the color tag ones go to the top. So I put these two beside each other. Clear variant, clear compare. There we go. So those are the two, and then I'll just zoom out, other way, there we go. Okay, so those are the two. I don't like this one anymore. I like this one. I'm going to turn this one into a secondary one, yellow. The green tag is my hero. There, that's my hero. Now, what I want to do is look at the crop and the composition. So normally, if I get this far with this crop and composition, the art director would have given me all the instructions I needed. I am lucky that I have cropped this image enough and not too much that I have all of this down here that I can add to it if the art director deems it so. I have a little piece here. Photoshop can fix that little piece up there. So my piece of advice for people starting out in photography, particularly working in studio for the first time, making sure I want to erase this edge. You gotta make sure your areas are controlled here, because this is that's an extra mask. See, coming in the bottom, because I've changed the crop. The crop is really important. Where the dividing line between what the camera is framing and the world is one of the most important things. So the subject matter is usually what we focus on. We usually put it, not always in the middle, but we can put it somewhere. Where we crop it is what makes this thing sing. Where this line divides the subject between the outside and the inside is really what changes the way this works. Could it be like this? I'm gonna make a new variant. Or could it be like this? So the outside edge is as important, if not more important, where the dividing line goes, what it breaks, how close it is to something, how far it is for something, where these things intersect, so lines coming together, are all things that you have to watch constantly. Checking back in all the time as you're changing the shot. You don't get excited, you slow down, you look at the shot. I'm gonna make another clone, and then we're gonna go and see what an awkward crop looks like. So we have these two left and right here, and then we have another, if we want to take it in. If that crop falls like we have everything, all the same things in here, but if we crop it like that, this space here that's not quite bisecting or cutting either one of these becomes awkward, and this is now too tight to the top. There's not enough breathing room around it. So cropping really matters. So this is why when I'm doing a shot like this, I'll always expect that I'm going to crop in, down to the label or to whatever it needs to be, but I will frame it in the camera further out so that I have that room to do either one of these crops, and it still works. It gives the art director lots of room, and it gives you lots of room. I am not shooting it so far back that I have to crop into here to get the shot, where it's only 10% of the shot, even though that's a damn good shot. Look at that. It's more about that I need to take about 10% off all the time so that I can have a little bit of room to crop it later. there. If I need to go full frame, I can, or if I need to balance it left or right, I can. I've given the art director choices. So they have 3 versions depending on what side of the page this might go on, where they want to put copy here, they want to write something there, you know, I can write something there, blah, 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 or they can put it here, blah, 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 or now they have blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. They can put things in there if they need to, or they don't have to do it at all. So things I need to retouch out are these things and these things. This is not bad, that's not bad. It's maybe not straight on, but it's pretty good. And maybe I need to get something that's other than fruit juice in there instead of the wine. I'm singularly impressed with that black background. It's really nice. So in terms of exposure, where is that exposure? Let's look at that, because that's my biggest beef with everybody. Not everybody, but many young photographers, is that sort of getting used to the exposure. So that histogram looks pretty good. So there's lots of peaks in the midtones, there's lots of peaks in the highlight regions, there's lots of detail into the blacks. If we look at where we started, tons of midtones in there, but the highlights and the package, the front end is really just too dark to deal with, right? So if we go back to this, that's not half bad. But what happens if we change that exposure and where we bracket it? So if we're not sure about this bracket, we can now go in here and we can change. I don't want to change the aperture. I don't want to change the ISO. So I'm going to bracket on exposure on shutter speed alone. This one's down 2/3. This one's going to be up 2/3. So there's a bracket, an exposure range, and I'm just going to make them all green so they all drop up to the top. And let's take one even further down into exposure, because everybody seems to underexpose. So we went from 8, let's go to 1/13 of a second. And that'll be the 4th one. Go all the way to the top. Whee! So dark, dark, lighter, too dark, too light, rather. And then we have the normal, which was this one. Okay, so this one here, second on the right, or first on the right, is too hot. Background is losing detail. It's open, it's kind of workable, but it's kind of too hot. The one over here, the darkest one, which is at f8, 1/13 of a second. This is at 1/3 of a second. So these two are the high end and the low end. This guy, look at the gold in here. For the normal's the far left, half under or 2/3 under, 2/3 over, 1 full stop over or under, sorry. The label, okay. So, and the glass, the life has left the glass in here. The shot has kind of, gotten really dark. The gold has kind of lost its snap. This is, the red's not bad, but the label has kind of gotten really kind of muddy. It's gone down to 132 from over here where it's just around 200. If we were going for that same sort of moody feel to it, let's see if we can get to one shot from here on the far left. I'm going to make a duplicate of it, clone variant, and I'm going to work on the clone. And I'm going to label it yellow so I don't get all confused. And we're just going to work on those two together. You can see why labeling things are good. So these are exactly the same shot. They're what I consider the good exposure. No, they're not. I'm looking at left and right of the same shot. Okay, so my yellow's there, so I need this one. Make sure that they're all the same exposure. 0.2 of a second. 0.2 of a second. Okay, so then let's get rid of this one off the view. There, okay. No, I did it again. so I need this one. There we go. Yes. Okay, so these are the same shot. Okay. Okay, so I want to make it moody. My theory is that we can do this here without compromising the quality of the shot. So I'm bringing down the brightness. If you look all the way over here, I'm bringing down the brightness all the way. And I'm going to bring down exposure a little bit. And I'm going to bring down my shadows even more. And I'm going to bring down the white. And then I'm going to go bring in a vignette to make it a little more dramatic. And I think what I've done is I'm trying to preserve like the life that's in this label here and the life that's in this label, and kept the background dark and dramatic, and lost that exposure issue that we have there. I go to the background layer. So I was doing that all just in my background layer, right? So that's a big shift. That's kind of nice to do. I've left the bottle where it is, and now I'm going to bring some stuff, some fancy things into the background, into the bottle there. So by bringing the brightness down a little bit, and I'll leave the exposure where it is because I want to bring in a luma curve. So now there, I've made it a little moodier. So edited, unedited. Huge change. So my feeling is that we can get to a better exposure by working a normal or slightly bright exposure down to being moody than we would be if we worked an underexposure up. Because I find this shot here, now the yellow one, is phenomenal. And that we've changed a number of things. We put a vignette in there. We've brought down a little bit of highlight. We put a luminosity curve in there. Maybe we've made this label a little too dark. So if I go to the background, I can get in there and open it up a little bit. And then now it's really popping. And what I'm trying to do is increase that contrast in that inside this histogram, inside everything, that allows me to create that file which is richly colored, moody and textured all at the same time, short focus, not worrying about the background so much. And I've created it with this shot. And how long has it taken me? Well, a long time. And it's a problem solving. So I had no idea, I did have an idea to get here, but I didn't know how to get here until I got here. It's about experimenting. It's about playing around. It's about willing to put yourself at a little risk and a little thing. I can see some issues with the masks here. So I'm loving this shot here. So let's move that out of the way. So let's go to the adjustment layer there. So yeah, there's a mask issue here. So I'm going to take that. I could actually extend that mask. See, I'm getting all excited. I brush this in. Suddenly that my fruit juice is becoming wine. Oh my God. Look at that. There we go. Now, normally we would always shoot with a lighter version of the wine because you can't get as much light into it. So there, that looks great. Oh my God. LCBO, here I come. So that's lighting with Capture One and lighting from on set. So I made a bright shot. I brought it down to where I need it to go. I've got detail into the highlights, and I've got detail into the blacks that I can control. I need to clean those glasses. And I got a great usable image. And it's about fooling around. It's about willing to be a little risky, but it's about judging where you need to go. I have ridiculously too many years of experience doing this, so I can see where the file can go to make it work. However, that's all learned stuff. It just happens by doing. It happens by being curious, and it happens by being on set. It happens by playing around. It happens by getting excited and working through an idea. And then you slowly build this towards something that you kind of like. So don't be afraid to make the mistakes and get further down the hole than you expected to go. And it can kind of end up in a place like this, which is, frankly, I'm impressed. So this is going to be my select now. So I'm going to call it red just for the heck of it. I know that it's going to be easily seen. The art director's approved the crop. I know that I have lots of stuff outside this. I want to quickly go through there and confirm where the edges are. So that vignette's associated with the crop. So I need to know about that, but I have to make sure that the mask that I've gotten is edited. Oh yeah, so there, you can see it here. I want to clean that up. No, I don't want, yeah, it's the erase tool. I want to clean that up, so I'm going to have to take that crop off there. So I'm going to have to clean this edge up. So let's drag the crop out and get rid of all that stuff in there. So let's erase tool, and you can make it big, and I can turn off the pen pressure, or turn off the auto mask. Just get rid of that. Because in case the art director needs to take all of this stuff in, I want to have it clean. See, I made a mistake over there. I want that to be there. Come on. Yeah, so let's do that again. Command Z, obviously going backwards, so. Woohoo! Okay, so there we go. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to give the art director the cropped version, but I would if I was going to go to the client. So let's do that instead. So if I'm the client, the teacher, let's call that. I don't like that crop. It's too close to the edge of that glass. I like this crop there, up a little bit to center that bottle, tiny bit, and then we're going to go to that. So that's our final crop. Now, when we're processing, and this comes down to file management, I want to go into my process recipe. I'm going to switch cameras here so you can see actually accurately rather than just looking over my shoulder. So here we are. I'm going to go to the process recipes. I'm going to choose the one that the client wants, so whatever RAF says. I'm going to create an Adobe 1980 100% 816-bit TIFF. It's going to create a PSD document. It's going to be Adobe 98. It's going to be 300 DPI. It's going to be fixed 100% ratio. And I'm going to open it with Photoshop just because I want to. Output location. It's going to go to my output. I'm creating a folder called Final Selects, which is great. So let's make sure it's confirmed it's the right output location. Yep, see P1, A4, output location. There we go. So that's good to know. It's going to go into a subfolder called Final Selects. I could also make output naming. I could also go in here and change the image name, but I'm not going to because I've already named it properly. I could have a preset subfolder, which is kind of great. So I could actually do it by file type. Metadata, no, I can recently used. I want to go to here. Color tags, you can set it. I want to file type. Extension is what I want, or recipe. There's so many things you can do. So I want it to organize itself by what the recipe name. Pop. So it's gonna, this one's gonna output by the recipe name. So everything's going to output. So this one's going to call Adobe 98 16-bit TIFF. This one's going to be called JPEG 100% RGB, and this one's going to be called. Where's my other one? My Instagram one. 8-bit annotations. No. JPEG for web. sRGB. There you go. So there's going to be now. They're all going to go into Final Selects, and it's all going to be. Each one of those is going to be named differently. So. If I go to process, I'm sending them out. Now let's go to Finder. And I want to go new Finder window. Right, let's go. See, it's gone everywhere. No, I don't want you. I want the Finder window. As it processes, I'm going to go in here, new, there. It's opening Photoshop for that one, which is fine. Let's go to Finder. And you can see, before Photoshop opens, if I go to Pictures, I go to the assignment. So I have, this is what I want you to see. I should probably focus in on that only. Okay, so Finder 6. Is that the right one? Drag to another screen to share. Drag to another screen to share. Too many shared windows. Okay, so let's make sure that we got the right one. Yes, you can stand way behind everything. It's great. The focal length is really important. You can, that narrow field of view, it really helps Finder. Which Finder am I going to take? This is the problem. I don't know which Finder. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is so frustrating. Sorry. I'm just trying to get you to everything you need to do. So you can see in the Finder window. I've got too many Finders. I've got so many desktops right now. I'm just going to put it into desktop 2, which is over here. Right? Desktop 4. I'll edit this part out of the... Desktop. Okay, well, I'm just going to go to the desktop and we'll just deal with it as it goes in. So desktop 1, share. There we go. Okay, and I will... There, and now on to desktop 1. I'm going to drag this guy. Drag you off. So on the Finder window, we're in the middle of this guy. If we go to Pictures, you can see here in P1, this is the folder structure that I want you to see. So capture, output, that, selects, trash, that all should be there. So in the capture, we have all our stuff there, already converted to EIPs, which is fine. Output, there's our output. So we have web proofs, we have a JPEG, it didn't go into the right folder. We have final selects, there we go. Final selects has PSD, JPEG, web proofs. I should probably, see this, I didn't organize it properly. So maybe I just need to have this, so final selects PSD in there. Web proofs, it can be the JPEG, but those two are named the same, so I can't do that. Can get rid of this one now. And the final selects, I can get rid of this one. So now I have a PSD and a JPEG. Not that I've asked for it, but this is what it is. So there it is. Let's open it in Photoshop. Okay, so there's our annotations. That's come in as a layer. That's nice. And we look at the numbers on that, so that's not bad. I could say that it's a little dark for what I want it to be, but it's easy enough to print from that. So there is our shot. It's important that the folder structure look like this. So the outputs are there, the captures. Now the captures is a ton in the captures, right? So in order to get rid of that, to make our files smaller, I'm always reluctant to lose files. I'm always reluctant to, I've got so many hard drives filled with stuff because I'm afraid to throw things out. So I'm gonna go back to my Capture One session here. And okay, so we know that this is our selects. I'm going to throw away, I don't want to. Because it's brutal and we hate sending things over the web, what I'll do is throw these away. Or what I can do, I'm going to throw them away, delete. And did they go to the trash? Nope, didn't go to the trash. They went away. Move to trash. I'm going to move into the selects folder so that we know. Continue. And then, where's my, oh, see, there we go. I didn't, everything went to the selects folder. There, see, this guy I want to stay in my capture folder. See, this is it. It's like file organization is wickedly hard. I'm going to delete all these ones except for that last one, which has got the color card in it. Oh, it's not going away because I'm not doing this. It has to. This has to be selected so that it does them all. There we go. Okay, so now we're down to that. And then we're down to this. And we can get rid of this guy too. So now we're down to the two that we need. We have the color card of the final lighting, and then we have the final color edit on the left with the crop, and that's what we want to send to our client. So the client will get, I normally would never send a capture folder. I would normally only send this output to a client, but this is what I'm going to send them. I'm going to send them this whole session. The trash I would empty because I'm sending it to Raf and me, and we know that we're going to have issues uploading things. But for my versions of everything, I always save all my trash because I never want to throw it out in case there's something in there that I need. And I already know there's stuff in there that I need. You wouldn't empty your trash on your computer until you absolutely had to, because like one of these shots is going to be usable for a background, maybe for something that the client might ask for. But the structure should look like this, and you should send with an empty trash. I would save everything that I have. Oh my, that is crashing all the time. I have no idea. The previews of EIPs. I have to update my OS. So that's it. Fairly complicated. Really got there. Took a while. But those are the two shots there that we did. Kind of fun. So, whew, I'm breathing hard. So that all being said, I'm just looking at John Soom's, wow, because the focal length, the camera can stand way behind. Yep. Yeah, so you can get, I do not expect that because of it's that angle and that compression of space, right? So the focal length of this 400, I mean, it's not really a studio camera, but I have to be, because I have to be really far away. My 100 can do the same, but it won't get this compression of space that you see here, right? So the choice of focal length is really, really important. So I need this distance to get back with the 400. I do a lot of shooting with the 200. I do a lot of shooting with a 100 in product. Sometimes I'll pull out the wider ones to get that pull if I need to, but most often I will shoot with longer lenses because what it does, it slices up the background. It partitions it really easily so we can get away with such a tiny background back there and still have lots of space. It's only taking that tiny little piece of life, right? Photography does two things. It freezes time and it cuts up the universe into little dividable spaces. It's us as photographers that we choose to show. It's not about what's around the space, it's about what we show in the space. Often lighting happens outside it, but we have to show, it's what we choose to show inside that frame. That's really important. Where that frame cuts the line, cuts the dividing line between things, is really important to see. This has given a rich and lovely shot out of a shot that was kind of roughly lit. We've done some pretty amazing magic here, and I kind of like it where it's gone. So it's up to you guys. What do you like? Okay.